My mother loves her grandchild after all. That's why she bought such an expensive gift for her as a school entrance present.
My mother-in-law, who was a money grabber and a habitual daughter-in-law snob, had been out of touch with me. Then all of a sudden, my mother-in-law gave my daughter a brand new bag. My husband is very happy. Perhaps she wants to improve this bad relationship. With that thought in mind, I took the bag out of the box. "Wow, a pink bag! Give it to me quickly!" My daughter shouts happily. The next moment, I took the bag to the kitchen and set it on fire on the stove. The fire quickly catches on, and the bag begins to melt from the edges. "Mom, what are you doing? That's my bag!"
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
My husband rushes to his daughter, who screams. He quickly puts a wet towel on the bag to put out the fire.
My mother went out of her way to buy it for our daughter. What in the world have you done with it?
My husband's face turned red, and he yelled at me. But I told him in a calm voice, "Did you see what's in the bag?"
What?
My husband looked at me with furrowed brows. I strengthened my tone and said again, "Just take a good look inside it." My name is Emily. I'm a 34 years old married woman, raising my daughter Lee, who turned 6 this year. My husband Benjamin and I came together through a somewhat unusual circumstance. I was originally a sales representative for a large company. One of the office clerks at one of my frequent clients was Sarah, who would later become my mother-in-law. She offered me a cup of tea whenever I came in, and before I knew it, we became friends, calling each other Sarah and Emily. And then, one day, she said to me, "Hey Emily, would you like to meet my son? I raised him with pride. I'm very proud of him." That's how I was introduced to Benjamin. He worked for a prestigious company, but he was gentle and not used to women. But that made him sincere, and I liked him. After that, we started dating very quickly. And since we were both of the right age, we decided to get married right away. Sarah, who is going to be my mother-in-law, is a good person, and Benjamin is perfect. We would be happy. At that time, I was innocently thinking like that. But it wasn't until 3 months into our marriage that I began to feel a sense of discomfort. We put all of our salaries, except for each other's allowance, into a shared account. We agreed that we would pay our bills and save from there. I was doing just that, but all Benjamin has to put in is $1,100 a month. Considering where he worked, I would have thought he was getting more than double that. In disbelief, I decided to ask Benjamin about it. "Hey, Benjamin, isn't the amount of money you bring in every month too small? Is it possible that you're keeping a secret debt from me?"
No, it's not a debt. I promised my mom I'd give her $1,500 every month, so...
Huh? Benjamin's story went like this. Ever since he started working, he has been giving his mother $1,500 a month. Since Benjamin was living at home at the time, he offered to give it to her. Benjamin thought it was for the living expenses and continued to pay it. He said it continued even after he got married. What? That's not right. You don't owe your mother money, do you?
That's true, but...
Besides, you are already married and living with me. You don't even need to pay for living expenses.
That's true, but my mother has a lot of needs too.
Benjamin's father died when he was very young, so he was raised by a single woman. That's why their bond is so strong. I learned this after we were married. Benjamin's mother picked out everything for him to wear until he left home after we got married. He ate his mother's handmade lunchboxes for lunch. He couldn't rebel against anything his mother said, so he listened to his mother's advice on everything. In other words, Benjamin was quite a mama's boy. I was a little taken back by the story, But at the same time, I was thinking, I can't imagine what kind of a relationship I would have with both of them. I hope things will change a little after we got married. Thinking back, my mother-in-law was always dressed in expensive fancy clothes. I had no idea it was coming out of Benjamin's paycheck. In the end, Benjamin wanted to keep things the way they were. For a while, I had to settle for a monthly allowance of $1,500 for my mother-in-law. I also had enough income to get by for the time being. But that didn't last long because I found out I was pregnant. Benjamin, who loved children, was overjoyed and took great care of me. Apart from the problems with my mother-in-law, Benjamin is by nature a very nice man.
Whoa, Emily, I'm so happy. Is it a boy or a girl?
Oh, Benjamin, it's too soon to tell. Now I have a favor to ask you.
What favor?
I want you to stop giving money to your mother. I won't be able to work when I'm pregnant and have the baby. And raising the baby, we need all the money we can get. It's just not enough.
I see.
Then Benjamin got an impish look on his face, thought for a bit, and said,
I understand. We need to start raising our children. I will put all the money in the house instead of giving it to Mom.
So Benjamin started to put his entire salary into the family budget from that month. Sometime later, my mother-in-law paid a surprise visit to our house. How are you, Emily? I came to talk to Benjamin today. My mother-in-law smiling. Before we were married, I thought she was kind and friendly. Now she seems kind of creepy.
Oh, Mom, what's going on?
Benjamin, you didn't forget to give me this month's money, did you? My mother-in-law smiled and held out her hand to Benjamin, who briskly replied,
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't give you any more money this month.
What? What are you talking about?
Emily is pregnant. You know how much money it's going to cost to raise a baby. I can't afford $1,500 a month.
This is the first time we've told my mother-in-law about my pregnancy. I thought she would be thrilled, but her reaction was unexpected. I don't care about any of that. Just make sure you give me the money.
Mom,
You've been giving me money all this time.
I told you raising a family costs money.
Well then, give me $1,100. Just transfer it to my account. I interrupted them in a panic. Sarah, I can't work when I'm pregnant and giving birth. We don't have any money to give you. Shut up! You're the one who put him up to this. My mother-in-law suddenly turned pale and glared at me. I froze, startled by the force of her stare. Benjamin has always listened to me. Of course it's because he married you that he suddenly started talking like this.
Oh, Mom.
You both work for big companies. You should have given me more. My mother-in-law was a different person from the kind Sarah had been before we got married. I was surprised to see her change her attitude when it came to money. But I retorted, Well, you are still active too, aren't you? That's none of your business. Give me the money you have for now.
What? What are you talking about?
I'm asking you to give me the money you have in your wallet. I won't leave until I get it. Broken by his mother's insults, Benjamin took $140 out of his wallet and handed it to my mother-in-law. I watched in amazement, but now my mother-in-law held out her hand to me. You too. What? Me too? Benjamin didn't know what to do. I didn't want to give her the money, but I wanted her to go home as soon as possible. I pulled out my wallet. With trembling hands, I held out $220. She grabbed it and put it in her own wallet. You really don't appreciate your mother enough. I can't believe Benjamin turned out like this. Oh, Sarah. You shut up. I'm leaving today, but I will not forgive you. My mother-in-law got up and left quickly. The two of us, Benjamin and I, were left standing there for a while.
Emily, sorry, my mother.
Benjamin apologized to me, but I couldn't answer him, so I retreated to the room. For a while after that, I heard that my mother-in-law was urging Benjamin to give her money, but Benjamin was adamant in his refusal. I guess she realized that Benjamin's attitude would not change. Gradually, the urging from my mother-in-law stopped. Then I gave birth to a daughter. We named her Lee and worked together to raise her. Benjamin was a wonderful husband and father, and he loved Lee with all his heart. My mother-in-law didn't even congratulate us, let alone express her congratulations. When I went to show her Lee, she just said, "So she was born." She didn't even try to hold her. To Lee, my mother-in-law was her grandmother. I wanted her to love her as much as possible, but that didn't seem to be an option. We lived a little distance from my mother-in-law. When Lee turned 18 months old, I went back to work, but there was something strange about the atmosphere in the office. They gossiped about me and treated me like I was a disease. Then, one of my closest colleagues spoke to me. "Emily, there's a rumor going around that you're the evil wife." What? I investigated the source of the rumor, and it turned out to be my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law apparently tearfully told the sales manager who took over for me. That's how the rumor started. I quickly corrected it, but to no avail. Everyone in the company believed my mother-in-law's story. Who plays a victim? I felt uncomfortable at work. I told Benjamin about it, and he warned my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law was like, "It's the truth." After this incident, I decided to stay away from my mother-in-law as much as possible. Benjamin was secretly seeing her, but I didn't see her once for a couple of years. The years passed. Lee turned 6, and she was about to enter elementary school. One day, after a long period of no contact with my mother-in-law, one day a large package arrived out of the blue.
It came from my mother. I wonder what's going on all of a sudden.
I looked at the invoice on the cardboard box and saw that it was a bag. Sarah bought a bag for my daughter? I opened the cardboard box and find a luxury brand school bag inside. Benjamin tells me with a bright look on his face.
I knew it. My mother thinks Lee is cute too, after all. That's why she bought her such an expensive gift for her entrance to school.
What? Lee's bag? I want to see it! I want to see it! Lee's voice was full of excitement as she peeked inside the box. Maybe she wanted to rectify this fraught relationship. With that thought in mind, I took the bag out of the box. Wow, a pink bag! Give it to me quickly! Lee shouts happily. The next moment, I took the bag to the kitchen and set it on fire on the stove. The fire quickly catches on, and the bag from the edges, it begins to melt. Mom, what are you doing? It's Lee's bag!
Hey, what the hell have you done?
Lee screams, and Benjamin rushes over to her. Benjamin rushed to put out the fire by putting a wet towel on the bag.
Mother had gone to a lot of trouble to buy this for Lee. What in the world have you done now?
Benjamin's face turned red, and he yelled at me. But I told him in a calm voice, "Did you see what's inside?"
Huh?
Benjamin looked at me with a furrowed brow, and I said again with a stronger tone, "Just take a good look in it."
What in the world?
Oh, ouch! Benjamin lets out a little yelp. At that moment, a trickle of blood ran down from his fingertip.
What the?
There's a blade in that bag on the shoulder. Yes, on the shoulder of the bag that my mother-in-law had sent. There was something like a cutter blade in the shoulder of the bag. If Lee had been carrying it on her back as it was, there is no doubt she would have been injured.
Why is there a knife here?
And look inside the bag. Benjamin fearfully opens the bag. He continued in exasperation. On the back of the bag, there were words of abuse. Ugly, stupid, stupid, ugly, stupid, ugly, stupid, poor, little shit. Such foul words were written on the back of the bag. I was boiling with rage. If she wanted to harass me, that was one thing, but to try to hurt my little daughter's feelings, I can't believe she would try to hurt my little girl's mind and heart. What would Lee think if she saw this? All you can do is burn it! I screamed through my tears as I hugged Lee. Benjamin is slumped over with a half-burned bag in his hand. Benjamin, say something! At that moment, he just threw the bag down and headed for the front door. Hey, Benjamin?
I'm going to my mom's place right now.
Wait a minute, I'm going too. I left Lee with my parents. Then Benjamin and I went to my mother-in-law's house. My mother-in-law seemed surprised by our sudden arrival. What's the matter with you guys?
Mom, what's with the bag?
Benjamin asked quietly, and my mother-in-law laughed.
What do you mean? It's a school entrance gift.
Don't be silly, I yelled.
With a knife in its shoulder and nasty words scribbled on it. You call that a school entrance gift? What? Oh, you already noticed. Did the kid cry? I was hoping to see her cry. I looked at my mother-in-law in disbelief as she said that without a care in the world. Sarah, what did you just say? I don't like the kids, you know. If it wasn't for her, Benjamin would still be giving me $1,500. The $360 he's giving me now isn't even enough. I looked at Benjamin, surprised that he was still giving money to my mother-in-law. Benjamin bit his lip and looked frustrated. Then my mother-in-law pointed at me and continued. You are the one who started all this. I made him marry you because I thought you'd give me more money. But instead of more money, you've given me less. You're still talking about that? I want you to take the kid and get the hell out of my life. Give Benjamin back to me. The next moment, Benjamin, who had remained silent until then, shouted, Don't say another word! Shut up! In contrast to his mother, who looked at Benjamin with a curious expression. Benjamin's face was bright red, and he was shaking. I've been trying to keep Emily and Lee out of harm. I've been giving you money every month. What did you do to my precious daughter? What? Benjamin? I can't imagine how hard Lee would have been if she had seen that bag. I can't imagine what she would have gone through if she had carried it. I'm getting out of control with rage just imagining it. Hey, what are you talking about, Benjamin? You should love me more than that little brat. You should be loving me, your mother. Don't be silly. You're disgusting. Of course she's more important than you. Benjamin's words seemed to shock my mother-in-law. Oh, did she ever think that Benjamin really loved her more than me and Lee? I looked at my mother-in-law with a chill down my spine. My mother-in-law turned pale and muttered, Benjamin, that's ridiculous. The only family I have is Emily and Lee. You're not my family anymore. What? I'm cutting you off as of today, and I don't ever want to see you again. Don't say that, Benjamin, please. Emily, you tell Benjamin to reconsider. My mother-in-law, her face a mess of tears and snot, came running up to me. I shook her off and told her, I will never forgive you, and you will never be a part of our lives again. Don't leave me. Emily, let's go. Benjamin took me by the hand, and we left the place, leaving my mother-in-law screaming. After that, my mother-in-law and Benjamin really cut their ties. We moved to a place where my mother-in-law didn't know. At first, my mother-in-law was persistent in contacting us, but after Benjamin blocked the calls, then she stopped. This is what I've heard, that my mother-in-law was buying brand name stuff behind our backs.
She couldn't forget the admiration she got from everyone when she wore them. She spent all her money on brand name items out of vanity and greed. Even after we stopped giving her money, she was unable to lower her standard of living. She started dipping into the company's money a few years ago. When it came to light, she was finally arrested. She's now behind bars for embezzlement. Of course, we never went to see her. My mother-in-law was buying all kinds of brand name stuff behind our backs. She became a money hoarder and even tried to harm our precious daughter. She lost her family and her life of luxury and became a criminal. What she thinks now that she has lost everything, I will never know. With the arrest of my mother-in-law, the misunderstanding of the evil daughter-in-law within the company was cleared up. I managed to get things back to normal. I bought Lee a new pink bag. She happily carried it on her back and happily goes to elementary school every day. From here on, I want to spend every day in peace with my precious family. That's all I can hope for now.
You're just slacking off in your room, not working. Stop smiling and telling me that you're working. Don't lie to me. These are the words my mother-in-law Katie and sister-in-law Elena said to me while I work from home. I'm Daisy, 35 years old, and I work as a designer. I love drawing since I was little. I was in the art club in both middle and high school and graduated from an art university. I've won several awards, and I always wanted to become a painter or work in design. My husband Hank and I worked together at a part-time job during college. Although we went to different universities, we lived close by and often went home together after our shifts. We discovered we liked the same artists and became close. We started dating on the day we went to see a live concert together. He's a generous and kind person. He listens to my whims and I love him, but sometimes his kindness causes him to lose out, which worries me a little. We had a lot of fun during our college days going to live concerts and festivals together. After graduating, Hank got a sales job at a small company and I started working as a designer at a design office. We got married at the age of 25, 3 years after starting our jobs. We have a daughter who is now in elementary school. When I became pregnant with my daughter, I went independent and started working as a freelance designer from home. At first, it was tough to work from home while raising a child, but thankfully, I now have a lot of work. I used to work from early morning till late at night before getting pregnant, so my husband was very supportive of me continuing to work from home. Living with my beloved husband and daughter while doing the job I've always dreamed of has been the greatest happiness for me. When our daughter started elementary school, we built our dream home. We even made a room for me to focus on my work. One night, Elena visited our house late at night. Katie had slipped in the bathroom and injured her leg, and she was in the hospital. She's getting discharged tomorrow, but she might need assistance when walking. I'm worried, so I'm moving in here. Can you help me out? My father-in-law passed away 5 years ago, and Katie and Elena have been living together. Elena works at a factory with a few days off and has night shifts. Katie used to work at a food factory until her retirement. I understood their concerns about Katie being alone for long periods, but I couldn't believe my sister-in-law was suggesting they move in with us. Actually, I don't get along well with either of them. It started when we went to greet them for our marriage. When I mentioned that I work as a designer, Katie said, "It must be nice to draw pictures and get paid. Sounds easy." My sister-in-law chimed in. "I'm jealous that you get to doodle and make money." I, who had been proud of my job, retorted, "It's not a doodle. That's disrespectful to all designers. I always rack my brain to come up with the best design. Please take that back." The atmosphere turned sour. My father-in-law, who had worked in an advertising company, understood the job of a designer and defended me. My husband, Hank, also defended me wholeheartedly. Thanks to them, we managed to get through the situation, but I still haven't forgiven them for their comments. Hank's family has very strong-willed women, and the men might be more easygoing. Since I'm also strong-willed, maybe that's why I got along well with Hank. I visited my in-laws' house several times since then. Each time, Katie and Elena made snide remarks, but I always respond in kind. I can't imagine living with them. This time, Elena had a rather arrogant attitude. You're home. You must have free time on your hands. No, I don't. I have to work and take care of the kids. The atmosphere was tense, but my husband said, Can you give us some time to think? Mom hasn't been discharged yet, and we don't know how much assistance she'll need. Why don't we wait and see? I'll go with her if she wants to go shopping or go out. Although Elena seemed dissatisfied, she left after hearing those words. After she left, I told my husband, We don't get along well, so we can't live together. Of course I know that, he replied, but he seemed a bit worried about his mother. However, that weekend while my husband, daughter, and I were having lunch, the doorbell rang. It was Katie and Elena carrying large bags. My husband and I went to the entrance and Elena smiled and said, We're moving in today. Looking at the car parked in front of the house, it was filled with their belongings. What's going on? I asked, and she replied, We knew you just postponed making a decision. We're just trying to leave everything to me. I thought you wouldn't make up your mind unless we did this. Hearing that, my husband said, Wait, sis. This house was built for the three of us. Daisy has a job too. We can't just do things without asking. But she insisted. We've already moved out of our old place. We have no choice but to live here. What? Why would you do that? As I tried to retort, my mother-in-law interrupted. Can you let me sit down? My leg hurts. It's your job to take care of me. Are you trying to kick us out? My usually mild-mannered husband was angry, but he looked troubled when they mentioned her leg injury and having no home. Amid the heavy atmosphere, our daughter came to the entrance and cried. Mom and Dad look troubled. Why are you and Auntie Elena doing something mean? I hugged my daughter and apologized. Seeing that, my husband said, Put your bags in the living room for now. It's not good for her to see us fighting. You can stay for a few days and then we'll think about it. Daisy, is that okay? Well, I was unhappy, but I didn't want to upset my daughter, so I had no choice but to accept. Hearing our conversation, the two of them started carrying their bags. Katie was dragging her leg and seemed to have difficulty walking. From that day on, my days of hell began. My usual routine was to send my daughter to school, finish housework, and then start working. Hank and Elena went to their jobs, leaving Katie and me alone. I'm going to work now, I told her before retreating to my workroom. However, that didn't mean she would let me concentrate on my work. At first, when I left my room to go to the bathroom or get a drink, she would say things like, Daisy, can you make me some tea? Daisy, what are you making lunch? I don't want anything simple. I had anticipated this, so I managed to dodge her request by saying, Sure, here's your tea. I prepared lunch this morning. Don't worry, it's not something simple. She seemed to look a bit frustrated. One day, I was in my workroom having a remote meeting. I didn't notice because I was wearing headphones, but suddenly, Katie started yelling right behind me. I've been calling you over and over. Stop ignoring me while you're having a fun conversation. I was surprised and let out a gasp, not knowing when she had entered the room. The camera and microphone were on, so the client heard everything. They laughed, and I felt extremely embarrassed. It was a long-time client, so it worked out somehow, but it could have been a disaster with other clients. I got her out of the room, finished the meeting, and went to see her. Katie, please, I'm working. Don't come into my room like that. It's your fault for not coming when I called you. I was dumbfounded and quickly stopped arguing. Thinking it was pointless to say anything to her, I called a contractor that day to put a lock on my workroom door. That night, when my husband came home from work, I said, I don't think I can handle this. I can't have my work disrupted. If you've put a lock on the door, it should be fine. She's having trouble walking, so I can't just kick her out. He seemed decisive. I understood what Hank meant, so I thought we needed to come up with some measures. To avoid worrying our daughter, we acted normal when we all ate together. There were times when Katie made sarcastic remarks, but I held back from responding in front of my daughter. Then, on the day of my daughter's school event, I took the day off from work and went to the school in the afternoon. Since Elena was off that day at home, I asked her to take care of Katie and left the house. In the evening, the school event ended successfully, and when my daughter and I returned home, all my work materials, including my computer and documents, were in the living room. What the hell is this? When I asked Katie and Elena about it, my sister-in-law replied with a nonsensical explanation. Well, I work night shifts sometimes, and our schedules don't match, so I wanted us to have separate rooms. I cut her off. I didn't ask for that. What is this? These are my work tools, right? Elena sneered. You're just slacking off in that room, pretending to work, right? If we're going to use a room for fun, it should be mine. You have a bedroom too, and since you put a lock on it, my privacy is protected. I had been locking the workroom door while I was inside to prevent my mother-in-law from entering during work, but I hadn't been locking it when I went out. I greatly regretted letting my guard down, not expecting her to do such a thing. Along with my regret, the sound of my anger boiling over toward Kate and Elena, who had done as they pleased, could be heard. Don't mess with me. These are my important work tools. Do you know how much money I make with these? What a pompous thing to say. I heard from Mom that you're lying about working. You're just laughing and talking with someone, right? I was having a meeting then. There are times when we are laughing during meetings, right? I never laugh during factory meetings. You're just lying. Elena, perhaps heated up, grabbed my hand. With my blood boiling, I raised my voice, shook off her hand, and yelled back. I felt like we were on the verge of a physical fight. Then Katie, who had been sitting on the sofa complaining, ran over to us. Stop it! Daisy is the one at fault. She works at night and has a hard time. She's always exhausted when she comes back from her standing job. Compared to that, you're just sitting in front of your computer laughing. What kind of work is that? Stop lying already. Huh? By the way, Katie, you just ran, didn't you? Are you lying about your bad leg? Oh, you're awful! Accusing an old woman with a bad leg of lying? Just because you don't want your own lies to be exposed. The fact that you could run is proof. Please rent a house immediately and go back to living together. Unable to hold back, I said what I had been wanting to say but had been enduring. Hearing that, Elena retorted. What are you saying? Talking about working from home like you're so important? Remote work is for recluses. Pack your stuff and leave. Katie continued. That's right. It's not us. You should be the one to leave. Then we heard our daughter's crying voice. I got too excited and was completely absorbed in the argument. My daughter had been crying the whole time. Seeing her, I came to my senses. Fine, I understand. All the furniture is mine and I'll sell the house. Goodbye. Huh? What do you mean, yours? It's Hank's, right? I just ignored her, packed my things, and went back to my parents' house. I apologized to my daughter a lot. As I apologized, tears welled up in my eyes. I emailed Hank about today's events and my return to my parents' home. That night, he came to apologize after work. I'm sorry about my mom and sister. Please come back. I can't. I've reached my limit. They will never leave. I'm already looking for a place to move, and I'm selling the house. I'll contact you again when we have a moving date and a new house. With that, I sent my husband home. In fact, his income was so low that it was impossible for the three of us to live together. I had suggested he change jobs many times, but he stubbornly refused, saying the company wouldn't run without him. So I became independent. I had been working while raising my daughter since she was born. Thanks to that, we were able to buy a house. We paid for living expenses from my husband's salary, but the house, car, and furniture were all purchased with my earnings. The house was in my name because I earned several times more than he did. I loved my job as a designer, and it was fine. I thought it was okay if he didn't want to change jobs. There were no complaints while the three of us lived together. I think my husband was also at fault for not clearly refusing to live with his mother and sister. I want to continue living with Hank, but living with his mother and sister is absolutely impossible. From that day on, I did everything I could to sell the house and find a new one. In the meantime, Hank told his mother and sister to leave, but they refused to listen. They seemed to be enjoying themselves in the house as if it were their own. Then the moving date was set. The arrangements for selling the house were also in place. We chose a moving plan where the movers would help pack, and I told that to Hank. It was a last-minute booking, so it was on a weekday. I wanted him to be there too, but he had to work. After sending my daughter to school, I mustered my energy and went to the house with the movers. When we entered the house, Katie was there alone, surprised by the large number of cardboard boxes being brought in. As we silently began our work, she said, "What are you doing? This is our house. Stop moving out without permission." "This is my house, so there's no problem. Please, continue." She kept yelling, but the moving work proceeded smoothly. Finally, we left behind just the small amount of belongings Katie and Elena had brought, and also Katie, and the move was completed. I felt refreshed. After that, it seems my husband received an onslaught of calls from Elena and Katie. That night, we went to the house together and told Elena our future plans at the entrance. "This house is already set to be put up for sale. A cleaning service is coming in a week. Please move out by then." "We didn't agree to that. This is our family's house. We don't even understand why you moved today. Hank, tell this woman something."
"I tried to tell you many times, sis, but you didn't listen. Daisy says she can't live with you anymore."
"How can you say that when our mother has a bad leg? You were supposed to have resolved this by leaving. Hank, shouldn't you divorce this mean wife?"
I couldn't forgive my sister-in-law for saying such selfish things. Divorce isn't something she gets to decide. I've been doing my best to take care of Katie while working and raising our child. You're the one who came and messed up my workspace, right? As I said before, this house is under my name. I have the right to decide. So I'm telling you to leave. Hearing those words, Katie, who must have been in the living room, ran to the entrance.
"What's with that attitude?"
My husband looked surprised.
"Huh? Mom, you just ran here. Was that whole bad leg thing a lie?"
As my husband said that, Katie looked flustered and pretended to be in pain, but he ignored her and continued speaking.
"It's embarrassing as a man, but since my earnings are low, this house is under Daisy's name. Despite having to care for our child, she worked tirelessly from home. Thanks to her unwavering dedication, I have my job. I can't forgive you and Elena for going as far as lying to interfere with her work. I'll help you find a place too, so please leave."
Hearing my husband's words, Katie and Elena remained silent with their heads down.
"I'm really sorry. I knew you didn't like the idea, but I couldn't say anything strongly because I was worried about my mom's bad leg. I'm sorry. Also, I've decided to change jobs."
Since then, Katie and Elena seem to have found a small place to live together. I haven't met them since, but when Hank went to help them move, they were apparently arguing the entire time. It was true that my mother-in-law had fallen and been hospitalized, but she could walk normally after a few days and had hidden this fact to avoid being kicked out. She confessed this to Hank. In our new house, my daughter, Hank, and I were able to return to a happy life. Our daughter, who had been a bit down during the time we lived together, has regained her energy and is now at ease. Hank has started job hunting and is likely to find a much higher paying job than before. My work is going as smoothly as ever. We're both saving money and talking about buying an even better house than before.